This Greek oil tanker, the Kirky, is an 800-foot-long floating time bomb. In rough seas, 50 miles off Australia's west coast, the entire bow section of the mammoth ship has suddenly broken off and sunk to the ocean floor. Amid intermittent fires, thousands of tons of Arabian light crude oil gush into the Indian Ocean, threatening wildlife and the Australian coastline. When the pumps that feed water to the fire hoses fail, the captain frantically sends out distress signals, then orders his 36-member crew to abandon ship. But when they try to lower lifeboats into the water, they discover that the lifeboat hoists are also not working. The anxious crew can only stand by helplessly and watch the disaster unfold. A Perth TV station dispatches helicopter pilot Tim Boas and cameraman Wayne Curiata.
Slow down.
They are the first to arrive at the crippled tanker.
As we flew around, we saw most of the crew on the back end of the ship, waving, thinking that we were a rescue helicopter. And as we came around the front, we noticed the whole front end had gone, and it was just spewing out tons of oil. It was a floating disaster.
It was obviously a very serious situation. There were big seas, strong winds.
Wayne is shooting a close-up of the escaping oil when, without warning...
Oh, get back. No, just take pictures, okay. Back. It's okay. You got a chopper behind you. Just shoot.
And that's what I actually said to Tim. I said, mate, this thing's going to go up.
As soon as it happened, we realised it was dangerous. But it was no use doing something silly and moving rapidly.
And what if the whole ship just explodes? I mean, it's lost the front end of it. There's gas and oil and flames. That's a deadly cocktail, that lot.
For 5 terrifying hours, the petrified crew worries that the Kirky will explode. Finally, rescue helicopters arrive. One by one, the 37 crew members are plucked from the rolling tanker and airlifted to another ship.
Slowly. Hold up.
The abandoned Kirky now drifts steadily towards the Australian coastline. It trails a menacing oil slick 36 miles long by 6 miles wide. There are still 60,000 tons of oil on board. Now comes one of the most dangerous jobs on the high seas. Amid surging waves, a specialized team is lowered by helicopter onto the potentially explosive Kirky. They'll try to defuse the disaster before it becomes an ecological nightmare. Trevor Kosh and his team from Sydney's United Salvage specialize in mid-ocean operations, but this would be their most perilous challenge.
There's no doubt that there were dangers involved with the job. The vessel was in great danger of breaking up and sinking.
To stop the fires, Kosh's men risk being engulfed in flames. They hang over the edge of the sheared-off fore section to disconnect electrical connections that have been igniting the oil. But even as they race to defuse the hot wires, the team faces another problem, one that could create a disaster of epic proportions. Abandoned, leaking oil, and potentially explosive, this Greek tanker, the Kirky, is the focus of nationwide attention as it drifts to within 8 miles of the Australian coastline.
Late this afternoon, the oil was closing fast on island reserves off Jurien Bay. Conservation authorities unable to relieve the gloom spreading over local fishermen.
In a dangerous operation, a salvage tug battles heaving seas to pull alongside the volatile tanker. They attach a tow line and begin towing her back out to sea. Their route is marked with a murky trail. Trevor Kosh and his salvage crew are appalled when they inspect the ship to discover what went wrong.
Once you had a close look at it, it was all painted up, but it was paint over the top of rust and holes and things that were patched up.
In fact, Kosh finds the Kirky totally unseaworthy. Parts of the deck that literally rusted to the thickness of a razor blade were covered with canvas and fresh paint. It is this corrosion that caused the ship's bow to snap off in the rough seas. The Kirky's ragged condition and explosive potential make Koch anxious to transfer the oil to another ship and get off as quickly as possible. The Australian government insists that she first be towed 1,200 miles north, away from fishing grounds and population centers. But nature works against them. As storm swells rise, the foresection of the ship begins to sink.
At one stage we had lost buoyancy. The bow was 10 feet underwater. There was every chance that the vessel could break in half, and we would have had very little chance of getting off had it broken in halves.
The salvage team transfers much of the oil to the rear tanks and is finally able to stabilize the sinking vessel. An empty tanker is brought alongside and tied to the Kirky as the remaining oil is transferred. Only now can the salvage team breathe a sigh of relief.
There's no doubt that this accident could have been prevented. A vessel which has deteriorated should be scrapped, and that was not the case with this particular vessel.
The Kirky is towed to Singapore and sold for scrap. Winds push the oil spill out to sea, where much of it evaporates. Luckily, there were no injuries or loss of life aboard the Kirky. Both the oil company and the shipping company must pay the $30 million for the salvage and cleanup. But it is the ship's owners who are most responsible, for by their greed and neglect, they not only risk the lives of the Kirky's crew and those who saved them, but the health of the world's oceans. Oceans spared an environmental catastrophe by the intrepid actions of Trevor Koch and his men who fight disaster on the high seas. It's a balmy summer evening at the SeaWorld Marine Park just outside Cleveland, Ohio. Along with live marine animals, the park's big attraction is a show based on the Baywatch television series. 4,000 people watch as a speedboat heads straight for the grandstand. As the audience waits for it to veer away, the 18-foot-long craft bears down on them at over 30 miles per hour. There's no way of knowing that something has gone terribly wrong. For a split second, people think the crash is part of the show. Then shock turns to horror.
I remember thinking it's going to stop, but it didn't.
Fema Neely, her husband Frank, and their 2 young children are in the front row that day.
My daughter really wanted to sit close because she wanted to get splashed. I happened to notice a gap in the front row, and we went down and squeezed in the front.
But their vantage point turns out to be a dangerous choice. The 1-ton boat flies 60 feet out of the water, scraping Fema's head with a glancing blow, then crashes into the packed stands behind her.
For a second, I really thought we were going to die, and then when I realized that we didn't, it's like, oh my gosh, let's get out of here, because if something was going to happen with that boat exploding, I didn't want to be under it.
As emergency workers arrive, Fema tries to comfort her screaming children. She's too caught up in the chaos to notice her own injury.
I did not actually realize my head hurt until probably about 4 minutes afterwards. I had an adrenaline rush, you know, it was get out, stay alive, and get my kids, get my family.
Frank Neely rushes to help victims trapped underneath the boat.
People started yelling and screaming, and then it was just a mass of people just running around and just trying to get out of there, and other people were trying to help, and I guess natural reaction is go to help someone. So that's what I did.
One man is in critical condition with head wounds, and 22 others, including 9 children, are injured. But miraculously, no one is killed, and Fema and her family escape with only minor cuts and bruises. An investigation begins almost immediately. A team of marine experts is led by Jim Gorman.
When I first arrived on scene, the audience had already left the amphitheater area, and we were very surprised that the injuries weren't more serious.
They first analyze how this high-speed stunt is supposed to work. What the audience doesn't know is that the stunt requires not one, but two drivers. A stuntman pretends to pilot the boat from the deck, while a ghost driver hidden in the hull is actually steering.
The stunt driver is standing up above the controls, acting like he's steering the boat. And this stunt driver would fall out of the boat. At that point, the ghost driver would continue operating the boat as he had all along, and then a rescue would take place by the Baywatch staff of the show to jump on board and stop the boat.
But the boat doesn't respond to the hidden steering wheel.
At this point, there's no steering control. The boat is careening toward shore, and it's just a split second away from beginning its impact to the shoreline.
The boat uses a jet drive that shoots water through a narrow nozzle to propel it. The nozzle moves to steer the vessel. An inspection reveals that the nozzle had broken free, severing the steering mechanism.
This entire unit here is supposed to be turned and attached onto the jet nozzle. When this unit separated and was held only by this cable, the operator lost all steering control.
But Gorman still doesn't know why. His main suspects are a crucial metal pin and a tiny screw that should hold the steering unit in place. Both parts are missing, and Gorman wants to know if they were torn out during the crash or failed beforehand.
We went back down to the grandstands. We raked to the beach. We spent hours looking for that horizontal shaft pin or the set screw to determine, when did this fall out.
The parts are nowhere to be found, so Gorman begins tracing the boat's history. The previous owner supplies a photograph taken just before he sold the boat to World Entertainment, the company SeaWorld hired to stage the Baywatch performance. Though the jet drive can be seen in the picture, it's impossible to tell if the parts are in place or not. So the photograph is rushed to a nearby NASA imaging laboratory where it's digitally enlarged many hundreds of times. The enhanced image shows that the vital pin was missing before the boat came to SeaWorld.
It placed a great deal of torque and pressure on the one pin that was still in place, and eventually it sheared away.
Thankfully, all the victims of the accident recovered from their injuries. But for Fema Neely, her lucky escape has had a lasting effect.
I play it over and over in my mind. I don't even know why I do. Sometimes I just lay down in bed and I start to think about it, and I can't stop.
Gorman attributes the accident to poor maintenance, and World Entertainment is held responsible. SeaWorld no longer hosts the Baywatch stunt show at its parks. And hopefully, Jim Gorman's successful investigation will reduce the risk of another freak accident, turning a spectacular stunt into a terrifying disaster. Massive seagoing automobile ferries, vital transportation links used by millions around the world. But an alarming number of them have sunk in recent years, taking thousands of people to the bottom of the sea. This British ferry suddenly capsized after leaving Belgium, killing dozens. It's not an isolated incident. 44 ferries sank between 1980 and 1995, killing more than 6,000 people. A death rate per passenger mile much higher than air or rail transport. And one tragedy in particular causes the world to notice. Divers break a window to enter the sunken wreckage of the Swedish ferry Estonia. They're looking for clues to explain why it capsized and sank in seconds, drowning more than 900 people. 136 people survive, plucked from the frigid waters of the Baltic Sea. This is what investigators know. On an autumn afternoon in Tallinn, the capital city of Estonia. Hundreds of passengers drive onto the car deck of the Estonia, the same way they're boarding her sister ship, the Mare Balticum, seen here.
Just go down there, there's the chief officer down there.
Right.
And they park you over on the way.
Right.
Okay.
Passengers leave their vehicles below and go to the upper decks, where they can shop, dine, and sleep in private cabins during the 15-hour trip to Stockholm, Sweden. Among them is Swede Anders Eriksson, who is on his way home to Stockholm with a friend after a sightseeing trip to Tallinn.
They told us when the ferry departed from Tallinn that there was going to be a storm that night.
Unconcerned, they visit the ship's bridge, eat a leisurely dinner, and then retire to their cabins. But Eriksson can't sleep. Large waves pound the boat.
And around about midnight, there was 2 very heavy knocks from the front, and I was nearly falling out of my bed.
The ferry begins to tilt as Eriksson hurriedly dresses and rushes from his cabin to investigate.
The boat started to go aside, and it didn't stop.
The engine room reports that water is streaming in from the car deck. The captain urgently sends out a mayday.
Mayday. This is Estonia.
We have a problem here. Very bad listing on the right side.
Panicked passengers try to fight their way out of their rooms deep inside the vessel. Eriksson is one of the few who makes it outside onto the open deck.
The wall became my floor now. The water came more near. I didn't have anything else to do than to jump into the water.
It all happens so fast, there is no time to lower life rafts. The fortunate ones plunge into the frigid, turbulent sea. Hundreds of others can only watch in horror from inside the ship as the sea swallows them. The Estonia sinks 200 feet to the sea floor and comes to rest upside down. Eriksson swims to find one of the Estonia's inflatable life rafts, but it is upside down and too large to turn over. He can only cling to its sides.
I can feel my toes, I can feel my fingers, and I'm alive. And someone must come and help us.
He rides the enormous waves for 6 hours until the break of day, when rescue helicopters find him. Against all odds, Anders Eriksson has survived. As for his friend,
he's not found. He's still down there, I think. He's dead.
the Estonia becomes the worst in a long line of ferry disasters. Investigators want to examine the ferry's 56-ton loading door, which they suspect may be the key to understanding what went wrong. Called a bow visor, it lifts up to allow the loading of vehicles. It has 3 locking devices, 2 at the sides and 1 at the bottom. Experts theorize that as the Estonia forged through heavy seas, the buffeting of the waves caused the door locks to fail. Their suspicions are proven correct when divers locate the bow visor a mile away from the wreck. It had broken completely off.
Everything's just been ripped out completely. It's ripped the weld, there's no plate there at all.
But the failure of the bow visor, which salvagers winch off the seafloor, is only a partial explanation. The other unanswered question is, why did the ferry capsize so quickly? The answer may come from model simulations conducted by Dr. Ian Winkle, a naval architect at the University of Glasgow.
Notice the rapid build-up of floodwater, which leads to rapid heel, resulting in capsize, the ultimate stable condition, upside down.
Winkle and the others say that as water flowed freely across the open car deck, it surged to one side, causing the ferry to heel over, turn upside down, and quickly sink to the seabed. Experts believe that the combination of the faulty lock and the open car deck are the 2 factors that triggered the catastrophic capsizing of the ferry. This finding prompts governmental action. Within 2 years of the accident, Northern European nations adopt the Stockholm Agreement. This calls for the retrofitting of ferries with flood control partitions on the car decks. And as a result of the Estonia tragedy, closer monitoring of the bow visor locks becomes a universal practice. But until all countries adopt the agreement, industry critics fear more ferries will be lost at sea. Still, for the relatives of those who died aboard the Estonia, there is some small solace in knowing that their deaths led to a new beginning in ferry passenger safety around the world.